Hey, what's up, y'all? Welcome to another episode of Life in the Jungle, Season 1, Episode 14. 14 of them things. And you know what? It's a beautiful Monday. It's a victory Monday. And like the topic and the title of this episode, Thrice is nice. Yes, it is. 3 times in a row, we have beat the Pittsburgh Steelers. And in those 3 games, the total score has been 92-37. So not only have we just been beating Pittsburgh, we have been dominating Pittsburgh. I'm a co-host Cam Chancellor, Coach Cam, and it's the boy, the Pharaoh, across from me. And we'll get straight into it, man. Domination, all 3 phases from the Cincinnati Bengals in that 41-10 victory.
Nothing better. We are no longer considered little brother, so no Cincinnati Bengals fans needs to accept that acronym or nickname. 3 times in a row, we have set course a new day, as they call it, DEY, and the curse of Big Ben Roethlisberger is over. So we're 7-4 right now, sitting in pretty position with the Chargers, who are one spot ahead of us in the wild card right now, keeping pace with Baltimore in the AFC North. We're actually in great position to challenge the Patriots and Baltimore for that top overall seed. So everybody in Bengals land, hold on. Let's take it week by week. Certain Cincinnatians, such as Coach Cam, should be very happy. Great weekend all around because for those who hate their state university, he took an L against the team up north and are no
Oh,
longer in playoff contention. So everything is set for the University of Cincinnati Bearcats, my alumni, to go ahead and get their first berth in the college football playoff. The Bengals beat the Steelers. What more can you want as a Cincinnatian?
hey, look, man, I'm not even going to go there with you today. I'm not going there with you. But look, it is a great time to be a Cincinnati, man. And it was just good to see a total game. I'm not going there. It's good to see a total game for once. I think this was the most complete game from start to finish that we've seen from the Cincinnati Bengals. We always ask, can we get 4 quarters? What would 4 quarters of play look like with this team? And from go, and remember, I gotta give kudos to Zach Taylor. I said I want to see what the first 15 look like. I
I
want to
was
see it
going to
start
say
fast.
you
I
have
said I
been
want to
you've been
see it
quite
start fast.
critical of
Yes,
his
I'm
first
going, man.
15 and his scripted, and we came right down the field and
Beautiful,
struck Pittsburgh in the heart.
beautiful, 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 and not only did we beat Pittsburgh, I've never seen us beat Pittsburgh up front on both sides of the ball. Now, normally we're a team where we might have some athletes and we'll toss it around on them. Remember with Chris Henry in the gang, Ocho in the gang, TJ Husmanzada in the gang with Rudy, and then you had your AJ Marvin when we were successful against them in that little time period. Um, but this was like, look, we're gonna line up, we're gonna hit you in the mouth and do something about it. And that was refreshing to see because, like I said, I've never seen that in my lifetime. Not we've beat the Steelers, but not in that fashion. Just to be able, we gonna line it up, we gonna run it, and you got to stop it. And it was beautiful to see just Jodine get going, 160 plus yards. Um, and it was good to see T Higgins get going. Remember what I said? I said T Higgins didn't play last time. So they doubled Jamar Chase. What tried to take, roll the safety to the side, take that away, and guess what? You had a level sighting, and you also had T Higgins going for 100 plus yards and a nice long touchdown catch. So the offense is really starting to hit its stride, and I think Burrow at first was starting to force the ball to Jamar Chase a little bit. Now it's starting to say like, okay, that's what we brought him here for. He took the top off the defense. Now teams are adjusting. Now you hit your other weapons. Pick and choose your poison, and that's what's gonna make us successful down the stretch.
That's exactly what it is. And you know me being the old school footballer, I've always called for Joe Mixon to set the table first
Hmm.
and to play off of him and to establish a run game. What I like more importantly past few weeks, it seems like the Bengals have an identity
Yeah.
now, and we are out physically in our opponents. And certainly, that's never really been the case with Pittsburgh, as you've mentioned. Even when the Bengals have been at their best, Super Bowl years, it's always been more of an overwhelm them with athleticism and finesse on the outside. But we punched them in the mouth now twice, and
Hmm.
this is the first sweep since 2009. I believe it's the first time that the Bengals have beaten the Steelers 3 times in a row, going back to the Boomer Esiason days when we had a run starting in 1988 where the Bengals beat Pittsburgh 6 times in a row. So things be a changing,
Yes.
and it's certainly refreshing to see the Bengals take control of a team and an organization that has put us through such grinding times here in Cincinnati.
Absolutely. And I will take a look at some of these comments here. We got Chris Taylor with a big hoo day. Yes, sir. Hoo
Hey,
day,
I
Chris.
saw, I want to shout out Chris because I saw his video complete with the sweep moment that he
Yes.
had going on in there. I thought that was hilarious. Had to sweep him out the door.
Yep, yep, yep. It was definitely good to see, man. And Brian Chamberlain in the building. Yo, what's going on, Brian? Appreciate you for tuning
We
in.
got our resident Cowboys who they supporter Brian in the house.
Okay, all right. Chris talking about so you've been blasting too sexy all day about Future and Drake. Hey, hey, you know what? Hey, it's a good time, man. It's really good time to be a Bengals fan because we are a young team. People forget, Burrow just probably completed his like 21st or 22nd game. And then you're looking at Jamar Chase in his first year, Higgins in his second year. Um, you're just looking at some of our cornerstone pieces is very young. And on the defensive side of the ball, you know, Sam Hubbard, man, he's really been stepping up and actually been getting sacks along he's definitely good against the run, but now he's actually getting some sacks as well. This is his third straight game with a sack. Hendrickson, we can't say enough about him. 7 straight games with a sack now, 10.5 on pace, like I said, to shatter the single season sack record of 13.5. He's on pace for that. I feel like he'll get that if he stays healthy. And the secondary played really well. Eli Apple with another interception on the opening
Very
drive for
happy
Pittsburgh.
for him, and not
Yes,
just because he went to but because he's taken a lot of criticism, some just,
yes,
with his play at the beginning of the year. But seems like he's starting to get into a rhythm. And man, that Mike Hilton playing that slot corner, I've been
yes,
impressed with him throughout the entire year. Seems like he's always Johnny on the spot, especially on those bubble screens and even coming up on run support. He's always been tremendous. Of course, he had that play where he was, in my opinion, unjustly flagged against the Jets. But outside of that, man, there have been very few mistakes that Mike Hilton contributes to. And how sweet was that pick six against his former team yesterday to further stick the knife? And that was in the first half.
yes, yes, absolutely. And that what made it 31-3. And Mike Hilton, and I forgot to put the tree back here, y'all. You know what I'm saying? I got the Who Dey tree. I know you see the Bengals hat back here. I know you see the orange and black glistening back there. But anyway, um, no, man, but Mike Hilton has been a huge addition in terms of the mindset of the football team. That's something that you can take from Pittsburgh. Some of the mentality of going to work every day and keeping your head down and keep grinding. That was an important signing, and it's something about Mike Hilton. They didn't respect him. They didn't offer him anything. And he was hurt by that. Because I know the first game we played Pittsburgh, he addressed the team before the walkthrough on Friday, and so told him how important this game was to him. So for him to come out, get a pick six, and what was so lovely about the pick six, not that Mike Hilton just picked it, that duck that Big Ben threw, just was just like it just showed you that he was finished. That ball was fluttering. I mean, I'm like, oh, I'm like, he is done. Like I'm up here watching the game, like he is finished.
Well,
Like there's
Pittsburgh
no
is
more
in
in him.
trouble in general. I feel like they're trending in the wrong direction. I can honestly say, and I would lie and say that I'm not piling on, but I am, and who cares? That
Yeah,
this is the first time that I've seen Pittsburgh not be able to stop the run and not be able to run the ball at the same time throughout my lifetime. A couple staples of Pittsburgh Steelers teams that they really just
Absolutely.
have a problem doing at this point, and that's regardless of who they play. And I don't feel sorry for matter of fact Mike, who I do respect as a coach and as a man, and how he carries himself and how he coaches. I hate that he doesn't get mentioned a lot of times when people are talking about the best coaches around the league, because I do think he's in that category. But if something were to happen and Mike Tomlin were to have his first losing season ever since taking over as head coach in 2007, and somehow the Rooney family decided to get rid of him, he won't be unemployed for long. So I don't feel sorry for him either.
Right, exactly. He's a good coach. I just think the front office has mismanaged them having the heir apparent to Ben Roethlisberger. It's either going to take them a boatload of picks to get a Russell Wilson, or I've heard of Deshaun Watson thrown around. It's going to take them to empty the bank out to do that, or they're going to have to get lucky and draft one. Um, and knowing Pittsburgh, they're not the ones to give up multiple picks for anybody or anything. So I will see them drafting one. So they're going to have to figure it out. And that's something for them to figure out. And that's cool. They don't never have to figure it out for all I care. But that's just shows we're 7-4 now, a game back in the division where it's early. Still got a lot of weeks left to go. But when you look at it, Cleveland lost last night. They're now 6-6 at 500. Pittsburgh 5-5-1 at 500. You got to think that maybe, just maybe, those two teams are close to getting buried. Just depends on how things work out. Because I know Pittsburgh plays Baltimore next week, so that's a very much important one. Which you can kind of toss records out the window for that one. Um, But for you, before we tap more into the game and what we saw, and before we hit the comments, I see you guys. What do you think, what or do you feel that even with a game back, but with a win over Baltimore, do you feel like the division is ours to lose?
Certainly, I feel that way because I was speaking with a friend of mine, off the record yesterday. And I'm looking at the Bengals' schedule, and there's still a bug in my ear telling me that the Bengals should be undefeated. When I go back and I look at even the games that they've lost,
Yeah.
other than the Cleveland game where we just didn't have it, from the start basically, and the pick six kind of took us, out of rhythm. Every game the Bengals were in or either had a lead at a certain point. I think they bounced back about as good as you can, going on a two-game win streak from the two horrific losses that we did have in back-to-back weeks to the Jets and the Cleveland Browns. So the Bengals, should be feeling like this is their division to win. You've knocked off Pittsburgh twice, so they're out of the way. Baltimore was on fire, and everybody's, front runner at the beginning of the year, especially as teams like Kansas City came out of the gate struggling. We know what the score was. We handled Baltimore pretty handily in Baltimore.
41-17.
So we got two California teams in a row coming here in the Chargers and San Francisco in the month of December. That the Bengals hopefully should be able to take care of business before we deal with Baltimore on the 26th of December. So you should have enough momentum to really put a stranglehold on this division. And hopefully in January, when we go up to Lake Erie, get this Baker Mayfield monkey off our back.
Man, yeah, because he seemed like he just have our number. And I was looking, I'm like, how did Cleveland beat us? I'm watching the game last night. I'm like, how did they beat us? But it's just something. It seems like it's something. It's always that one team that give you trouble, no matter how.
Yeah, it's the OBJ effect, man. They were so happy to have him out of the locker room. There was some extra juice.
Well, now you see Kareem Hunt dad done came out and started talking trash about Baker Mayfield, talking about he's scared because he injured and all that kind of stuff. I just think they're excuse me. I think they're tired of Baker Mayfield. I think the players in the locker room feel like he's getting too much of a pass. Um, you run OBJ out the door, to try to get the, and you think that's gonna fix everything. But the matter of fact is they don't have any weapons. They really don't have any weapons to test you down the field. They got Peoples Jones, but he's yet to really prove himself as being consistent through a 17 game season. Um, Jarvis Landry underneath, but I think he's getting a little long in the tooth. Um, Outside of the running game, you look at their outside weapons. You know they got decent tight ends, but they don't have nobody on the outside to really help Baker out. So that's I can see us
It's
easily doing it as
still
ours.
everything that you said brings back to the original question of how and why did Cleveland defeat us then? But
I
again,
can't figure it out.
can't live in the past. The Bengals have an opportunity to rectify that and get on a serious roll. And if they can keep this momentum going, whatever mojo juice that Zach Taylor and the gang had them drink on the bye week, keep drinking it, keep doing everything that you're doing. Was also nice to see the orange socks with the orange jersey and black
The
pants,
Black Panther, them was clean.
something the
Them was
Bengals
clean.
haven't done since 2004, if I'm not mistaken. That uniform combination, but everything is flowing right now, and that's what they have to do is stay focused and take it week to week. Because I think all of us as fans, when the Bengals got up to 5-2 and were number one in the AFC, I know I was guilty of it. I started dreaming and running
I start dreaming
scenarios
too.
scenarios through my head, like, and maybe the Bengals did too. But I think this is a group that, although they're young, and some people would say maybe a year ahead of schedule, they found something now, and Joey B is ready to go. I think that conquering Big Ben, twice in a row gives them confidence, and he's a guy that will step up and be ready for Justin Herbert, a guy that he's constantly getting compared to. And we know how Joe is. He's got a little bit of that Tom Brady S to him, where he likes going up against the guys that everybody else is talking about, and that's his thing. So take care of the division. But yeah, there's some other meat out there to get to.
Yeah, absolutely, and that'll be a good game, and we'll definitely touch on that in a little bit. Here, my guy Corey Brooker here says, nice to see the Bengals be physical. Turns out football gets played in the snow sometimes. They need to be able to run the football and not a read option look with a quarterback that doesn't run. Yeah, that's very true. It is December, and it felt good yesterday because I was thinking like, oh shoot, the weather about to turn, and with the weather about to turn, we actually have a running game to lean on. And I think those last, I want to say two playoff appearances with Andy Dalton, I felt like we didn't have a strong enough run game to compete in the playoffs, and to win in December and January and things like that. And I feel like with Joe Mixon, and give credit to the offensive line. They may not be the best pass blocking line in the world, but when it comes to time to maul you and really it's time to run the football, I think they really dig down deep and blow people off the ball. I think we saw that Sunday.
Well, I think that helps though. When you're trying to get somebody in rhythm and trying to get them confidence, let them grind it out. And when you have a dynamic running back like Joe Mixon that can pick holes and make plays, even sometimes where there may not necessarily be, a gigantic hole, that infuses confidence in the entire team. So once they start run blocking well and they start feeling themselves and imposing their will on the defense, it makes it a little less likely that the defense is going to send the wolves at you, kind of had to pick your poison. They're off balance. So now all of a sudden they're about 2-3% better in the pass protection, category. So that's why old schoolers like me always talk about establishing the run. And like you said, AFC North football, weather's changing. You want to be able to do that down the stretch. It protects Joe Burrow also too. When he's able to do that and pass because we want to, not because we have to, in different scenarios. So it's a win-win for everybody when the offensive line is going like that. Joe Mixon, of course, last week didn't post this, but Bengals fans may know he did win FedEx Ground Player of the Week last week with his performance
Hmm.
against the Raiders. Really hard to see him not winning it this week too,
Yep.
so that could be back to back. So yeah, they're shading coverage towards Jamar Chase, but everybody else is eating now too.
Yep, and that's gonna be trouble. That's gonna be trouble because as soon as you say, "All right, we can't double chase," he gonna kill. He gonna get you again. So I'm liking where we at as an offense because we're starting to figure it out. And these last 2 weeks, I feel like outside of last week's first 15, I really feel like Zach Taylor's getting into a groove play calling wise too. He's leaning on Joe Mixon, and showing that hey, we don't have to throw the ball 50 times to stay competitive. You run that thing 30 plus times with Joe Mixon. Joe Burrow only had like 24 attempts, 20 or 24. You live with that. That's efficient. And you live with that. You definitely live with that. And it's something I want to talk about too. It was refreshing to see a total domination. Chris Taylor, uh, the O line might have found a combo. Now, remember we were discussing, that right guard position with Adeniji and Carmen, and we were kind of scratching our heads. I know I was scratching our heads with my head, saying like, this is a second round pick. We put him in there to start him 3 4 weeks, and then all of a sudden we take him out, put another guy in that could do psychological damage to a player. However, they must have saw something. Frank Pollock must have saw something because Frank Pollock loves the energy. Um, and he played well. He played well, very, very well Sunday. I think they gave him a credit of 4 pancakes, in the run game. And maybe you're starting to see the line take shape. Maybe we have a five, a combo in there that could take shape. Now, I do have a question. Outside of the energy, I've heard that we should lock up Quentin Spain. How do you feel about that, especially on the left side of the line? Like I say, I don't here we don't go by PFF. It's not the Bible. However, I did read Jonah Williams and Quentin Spain both graded around a 90 as far as the run game yesterday, and that's on the left side of your line. And if to notice, if you read, they ran the ball a lot to the left, and they got a lot of chunks running to the left. So, is that something that you would try to look into? Try to extend Spain for at least about 2 years.
I would look into doing so and make sure you consult Coach Pollock and get his honest opinion on Quentin Spain. We know the interior has been mostly what the concern has been across the offensive line so far this year. Riley Reef and Jonah Williams have done a good job on the outside as the tackles protecting. Um, so I would consider it, but I think all options need to be considered for solidifying the interior of the offensive line. Adeniji has stepped in, does some really good work. He was a sixth rounder out of Kansas last year, guard tackle combination, so he's had experience playing both. There's been some really good combination work, and I also like the set where they're bringing in an extra offensive tackle and Isaiah Prince
Yeah.
from
Uh huh.
the
He
to
playing well.
step in and definitely in rundowns, and he's an eligible wide receiver in that combination. So I could see potentially. I'm sure at some point Zach is working it in where he maybe flexes out and does the old Anthony Munoz, screen option out of the tight end stance as an extra lineman. So it's something to look out for. I don't want to tip off our opponents or anything, but I'm sure Zach has been thinking about that, and Brian Callahan and the offensive staff, but they found something with that too, the extra offensive tackle. So look, you got to give credit where credit's due. But I think you still need to be looking in the draft for free agency at possible center guard options. But Quentin Spain would definitely be under consideration for an extension if it was me.
Yeah, yeah. Cause I look at Quentin Spain. Loves to be here. Great locker room guy. There was a video of him the other day. Him trying to do the gritty in the locker room, stuff like that. Like, but and another thing I've noticed about this Bengal team, and you have to give credit to Zach Taylor. I'm here. I haven't been a big Zach Taylor supporter, but you have to give
No,
credit. But you have to give credit when it's due. These guys love playing for this guy. The locker room is probably as tight as I've ever seen it.
I'll
Uh,
give that to you. And this
even when the Marvin years here, it's like offensive players hang with the defensive players. It don't matter what side of the ball you on, lineman, running back. They just like hanging with each other, and they do off the field. And I think that does do something for you on the field as well.
initially, and it does, and it has serious carryover. Initially, I was fighting you on that. I felt like they were playing more so for internal pride and individuals as professional athletes wanting to compete. But that's one of the things that you don't need PFF or anybody to point out, especially if you're a football guy. You can see when they quit on a coach and don't want to play for them. And if I'm being honest about it, because everybody knows I haven't been the biggest Zach Taylor supporter myself either. They have had plenty of opportunities over the past 2 years to quit, and they haven't done so, even when things weren't going well. So obviously, there's something that they believe in, and as much as it may have bothered, some of us lifelong Bengals fans, maybe he did have to clear out the locker room and get, the majority of his guys in there, establish the identity that they want to personnel wise that fits the scheme. We know that's worked out defensively as they've transitioned to more of a 3-4 look. And Sweet Lou has gotten some guys in here like the Trey Hendricksons and DJ Readers that fit his style of defense. You've seen the investment of the, what is it, 220, $230 million the Bengals have spent on the defense the past 2 years start to pay off. So I agree. We have seen a team that seems to enjoy playing for Zach Taylor. And I've noticed other Bengals teams in the past maybe were a little bit more, cliquish, make up that word as far as,
Bingo. Yeah. I'm not
who
saying
they
they
want.
won together,
Yeah,
but it's
not,
just
yeah,
different spots in the locker room. You'll probably see 4 or 5 here, 4 or 5 there, 4 or 5 there.
yeah. And
And
these guys seem to really be all on one accord. And certainly as they busted that dance move out, getting a
yeah,
little jig going, they were certainly
right.
in sync with that.
Right. And once again, I heard that was Quentin Spain's idea. So he said, Joe, like when you score, we're gonna get together, we're gonna do like a little temptation thing. But that's cool though. That's when you know like you together. And like I said, that carry over to the field. They really feel like um they feel like they one of the best teams in the AFC. They really feel that way. They feel like when they clicking on all cylinders and they execute that really can't nobody beat them. And I'm looking, and I was watching the show today, Max Kellerman, just in or whatever, and he said that the Bengals could beat anybody when they come to play. They can beat anybody. Well, I'm in this mode of yes, they can beat. I think right now we're that team that can beat anybody, and we can lose to anybody if we're not focused. I mean, to be honest, we got some great wins. Pittsburgh twice, Baltimore, things like that. But then you look, we lost to the Jets. We lost to the Bears. So it's that young kind of like that young team where you we showing a lot more flashes than lows, but you're gonna have that throughout the course of a season. But I think right now they're hitting their stride. Right now the team don't care who is flourishing or who is shining, long as that W is at the end of the zeros, fourth quarter, and long as it shows W, that's all that's mattering. And that's key, especially when you have a lot of weapons on offense, because everybody kept asking Tyler the boy, "How you feel about the targets? How you feel about the target?" He's like, "Man, if we win, I'm fine. As long as we win, I don't care." But now we're starting to figure out ways to get Tyler Boyd more involved. He made a heck of a diving catch yesterday on the
Beautiful. Yeah.
sideline. It was absolutely beautiful. Uh, so I, I'm happy where the Bengals are right now. And for the first time, and I want to give the whole coaching staff credit here, for the first time out of a bye week, we look like we made some changes and we're flourishing after a bye week. Normally, after a bye week, we struggle, we lose the game after the bye week or whatever. But this team has figured out something, figured out their weaknesses or whatever it is, and they've came out and they look dominant the last 2 weeks coming off a bye week, and that's huge.
And I tell you another thing to look at all three phases. We got us a kicker too.
Oh,
That
50, he gonna make it.
that even 50 and over is nothing to Mr. McPherson at this point. And I was certainly watching him because my only concern with him, and he was the only kicker drafted in this past spring's draft, 2021, was with him being a Florida guy. Would he still be able to kick as the weather turns? And so far, so good. And we look like we got a gem on the special teams in also. So, cannot complain about anything at this point. They are firing on all cylinders. And I agree with Max. I mean, we said this already that the Bengals are certainly, by all accounts, a year ahead of schedule. And being a young team, they've still found a way to win some of these games also. You go back to the Jacksonville game, as I mentioned before, when even Joey B said, hey, this is a game in the past we would not have won, where they've been able to pull it together and get out of Dodge. And yes, we've had some head scratchers. We've also taken care of business against teams like Detroit that we knew the Bengals were favored and the better team. So you got to take the good with the bad, and you hope that they're finally getting on a rhythm down the stretch, which I hope, and I really think that they are, to the point where you don't have a huge letdown at the wrong time. So maybe it was good that they went through some of those lows at the time that they did, because this is certainly the stretch run. You got Kansas City mixed in the month of December, as well, who, regardless of their record, it seems like they're kind of trying to figure things out. And we know they have the weapons. That'll be another great measuring stick. Team has been to three straight AFC, championship games, to see where the Bengals are at on both sides of the ball, really, in that game. And you have to just be patient and see what happens week to week. But I'm telling you, if they get on a run and they beat these teams that we have lined up, in front of us in the near future, then you got to start thinking, hey, man, we're pushing for that number one, number two slot in the AFC, looking at a home playoff game, things that, fans can really be excited about. But I know Zach and the gang doesn't want to think that far, and they shouldn't. But, it's at least in the back of your mind with the way they're playing right
Yes, absolutely. And for those of y'all, I'm looking at my phone. Pete Thamel, I know it's totally off record. Pete Thamel has now announced that LSU is expecting to hire Notre Dame's Brian Kelly as the school's next head coach. An announcement can come as early as tomorrow. I'm here to announce that I'm going to drink in sorrow because I know that Luke Fickle will be leaving most likely. I know they're going to
now. Oh,
call him,
no, not Luke.
and most likely that he will be gone. And but I'm here to say, before we hop back on the Bengals, once he leaves, you're not gonna hear any bad mouthing about me about Luke Fickle at all, not one bit. Um, it was the way BK left here. It was the way how he lied to the kids and everything like that. I will not be upset with Luke at all. He stayed here longer than any other head coach in UC history. Honestly, built us back up from the Tuberville era, that was very pathetic, by the way, and almost ruined the program. So if he decides to leave, kudos, Luke. You deserve it. Thank you for what you've done here. If you decide to leave, uh, but um, one thing, and Chris says here, Evan McFearless to get back on the Bengals, and you know what? It's a weapon. Knowing that I could cross the 40 and potentially get some points is a weapon. We never had that before. Unfortunately, we had Randy Bullock, who, anything past 50, it just might not make it. And we had Shane Graham, years ago, who he'd hit anything until the game was on the line.
Yeah, at one point, Shane Graham was the most accurate kicker in
Shane
NFL
O'Matic, that's
history
what we was calling him until the game was on the line.
until the game mattered.
Until the game mattered. So, that's a weapon to have. At first, I'm
Hey
like,
man, I
backup
get
kicker.
I go back to Doug Pelfrey. You know, uh,
Yeah,
so
tough.
I remember what it was like to have a kicker where it's like, okay, automatic, and we're
Yeah,
certainly
I
back to
remember
those
Doug.
days. Yep,
Number 9, Doug Pelfrey. Or 3. It might have been 3 or 9. One of them.
he was
But
nine. He was
it
nine.
was 9. It was 9. Yeah, I know Doug Perry. I definitely remember him. But it's just something feel different about this football team. I'm not sure what it is yet. Uh,
Well,
like
Mike
I honestly,
Tomlin offered his opinion on what the difference is. I don't know if you heard that.
I didn't hear that. Can you share with us what Mike T said?
Well, he cut off whoever was, asking any question, whatever member of the media, and immediately answered Joe Burrow.
Mm. I
Is
mean, it's a mindset. It's a moxie and a swagger that spills throughout the whole team.
he certainly is a different cat, and we've joked about this before. Went back and forth about who we thought the Bengals should have picked, and I admitted to Coach Cam off the record. For those that don't know, he almost had a heart attack when I said it that Joe Burrow was the correct pick for the Bengals for obvious reasons. At this point, and he certainly transformed this organization in more than one way. Also, have to give a shout out to director of player personnel Duke Tobin. and some of the picks that he's made in consultation with Zach, going forward to get guys that fit the system they want. And again, Mr. Brown and obviously Miss Blackburn, Katie, who seems to be increasingly more and more in control of day to day, operations. I know she attends the league meetings as the Bengals owner representation when they come around. She's also another post that I had made sure I post in Life and Jungle. First woman to be part of the NFL competition committee was very big news. I want to congratulate Miss Blackburn on that as well.
Hmm.
So, I've seen jokes still out there. A lot of people, I got friends that, played in the NFL as well. Some, I won't mention them by name, that, played during the 90s and the lost decade. So I understand why they have the muscle memory in their brain that they have about, our beloved Bengals. But times are changing, and I'm liking the direction that the team is going and let's just sit back and enjoy this and moment to moment, because it might turn into something special.
Yes, yes, absolutely. And I see the comments here, Joey Burrow. Not going to lie, I didn't want to take him number one. Loved him, just didn't think he'd be a franchise guy. No, what it is, you let your scarlet and gray glasses get in the way of who we needed. I kept hearing Chase Young, Chase Young. And I said Chase Young gonna be fine. Chase Young gonna be an All Pro, but Chase Young ain't gonna change this franchise like Joey Burrow will right away. Because look, you can have all the edge rushers in the world. If you don't have a quarterback, you're going to be 6-11. It's just what it is. You can have a great defense, but if you ain't got the quarterback, you're going to be fighting an uphill battle in this league. That's simple. Washington had a great defense. Yeah, they made it to the playoffs, but they were 7-9. They didn't have a quarterback to back up that defense.
I
I'm
agree.
starting with a quarterback and I'm building everything else around it. But I need
I
to have my
agree with
guy first.
I agree with the comment, and even when we were kids, even though it was more run centered and defense oriented, started the league, there was always a gap between those that had a quarterback and those who didn't, or guys who had a stopgap guy just to get you in between. So that's always been, the separation between the elite teams and those that are really competing for Lombardi trophies, is making sure you had that franchise guy at quarterback. Nobody's doubting that. We had a nice little gap from, Boomer until Carson Palmer got here. We've experienced that in Cincinnati. We know what it's like. Obviously I was a bit higher on Andy Dalton than some other people, were, but yes, there's a difference with Joe Burrow under center. You can't deny that. There's a confidence infused with this organization that he brings on a daily basis. So I don't think it had anything to do with scarlet and gray
Yeah, it did.
glasses.
Yeah,
You know
it
what? And for those that don't know, I'm trying not to feed into this. Life in the jungle almost didn't happen today because
It, it
me and
really didn't.
me me and Coach Cam got into another one of our spirited off the record conversations today, and he completely lost his mind, y'all. So I had to reel him back in a little bit. But yeah, he's on cloud nine still because he is just so happy with the rest of
I'm not on
Cincinnati
cloud nine.
that his
My
state
coach about to
university
go.
lost. I mean, he was just, oh man.
No, I was not. Look, look. I came into the game wanting y'all to win. I did. No lie. I said I'd rather just knock Michigan on through, have an all Ohio uh college football playoff, have Ohio against the world. That's what I want. But it just didn't happen that way.
And
Uh
it ruined an idea for a segment that I had, and we may still do it because shout out if you're following Life in the Jungle, please follow Time Out with Coach Cam. Also follow Factual Opinions, which is up live and running. We record bi-weekly at YNO Studios. I reached out to JT Smith of Front Office News, who I've done work with. Cam has done work with also. I'm not just saying this because I know the gentleman and because I've done work for Front Office News as a contributor. Front Office News, in my opinion, is the best independent coverage of the University of Cincinnati in the city that you're going to find. So make sure that you follow Front Office News and my man JT Smith. But I wanted to do an all Ohio against the world hashtag segment. but obviously we don't have that. So we have the Cincinnati Bearcats taking the lead for the state. You heard people like Maurice Claret say, "Hey, I'm cashing it all in on the Bearcats, man." So Cincinnati is the place to be football wise right now in the state of Ohio.
Yes, absolutely. And my mom's in the building watching. I love my Bengals, good, bad, or ugly. And that's what it's about. That's what it's about. And like I said, if you a Bengal fan, ain't no such thing as bandwagon Bengal fan. We get it from the mud. We done stuck through hard times,
Well, there's
multiple
more
hard
ugly
times, multiple.
than there's more ugly than good, and I say that with a lot of love. You know, the popular acronym or nickname around the country is they want to call them the Bungles, and I'm like, you don't get to say that if you don't live here with this pain 365 days a year. That's our term, and I don't even try to use it myself. Look, I was born in the late '80s, so by the time I was able to decipher what was going on, I fell in love with the Bungles, or the lost decade, as they refer to it in the '90s. So look, I go back to David Klingler in the game. I've always loved the Bengals. It'll always be that way. So I agree with Moms. That will never change. It's not for the faint of heart, though. Being a Bengals fan is a tough assignment, and I'm glad that it looks like we're trending in a different direction going forward.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. But just to speak on it though, I am happy with the status of the Bengals right now. Even ownership, it doesn't, and it's not going to erase 30 years, worth of, you know, I'm not gonna say, 30 years are almost doom and gloom, outside of a Marvin Lewis era. Um, but things are changing, man. They're showing love to the, former players, um, which is I feel like which always gonna give you good karma. I feel like when you show love to the guys that help make this franchise what it is, you're gonna get some good karma in your return. So the Ring of Honor was long overdue. I'm glad Elizabeth got that going. Uh, you know, Fan of the year is going. Like I said, my guy Bengal Jim won that. Now they gave him 2 tickets to the Super Bowl. So you see that, and you see what all they're doing for the fans, and now we coming down there deep. Every game almost close to sold out. Like we want to see a winner. We want to have the ownership make sure they engage in the fans because we want to be there. We're starving for it. All we gotta do is just show us a little something, and we will show up. And these the past two off seasons, they showed us something. They went out, got players, got better. Um, and made some good moves.
Bengals fans can be rough. Rightfully so for some of, like you said, the past 30 years, the ups and downs, and sometimes more downs than up. But, I will say, as you mentioned, when the Bengals are winning or get it together, there's almost no more spirited fan base, in the NFL. And that's what it is. Bengals fans are starving for that consistent winner. And to get back to the way things were in the '80s, when we always put a good team out there and went to two Super Bowls in that decade, and kind of had just that mindset that we had when Paul Brown was running things. And again, I'm going to give a shout out to ownership, because I know from the former players that I've talked to and enough people, I know that Mr. Brown and Ms. Blackburn and the Brown family are good people, and they treat their players as well, if not more or better than other situations or teams around the league do. They treat them as people. They don't treat them as livestock. When you sign a contract with the Cincinnati Bengals, you got a better chance of getting all or most of your contract here than you do at a lot of other spots.
Yeah,
So that's never been a problem with how they treat their players. And then you had that whole reputation where even Mr. Brown made a joke about it. Not bad for a team that doesn't spend money, right? you
right.
know uh this a little bit outdated. I'm not saying that was always the case, but I know for the past decade, maybe decade and a half, the Bengals have always tried to keep their star players, the Dunlaps, Genos, AJs, so forth, the Whitworths, to keep them here long term, and have done a good job of that. But now you see they're even realizing, to compete and take it to the next level, we got to take some chances. We got to spend some money on some outside free agents. You bring in a Von Bell, you bring in DJ Reader, some of the other additions, Trey Hendrickson, to upgrade. That you take a chance on the Trey Waynes. We may be at the end of that experiment.
He
Haven't
gone
really
at the end of the year. Cut.
yeah, that
Yeah.
3 year, 45 million. Got to get more than 2 games out of that deal. So he may have seen his last 10 years of Bengal here going forward. But again, ownership is trying, and I've gave Cincinnati fans a lot of crap because I feel like there's a double standard sometimes in the city with how the Cincinnati Reds get treated
Oh, I'm glad you brought that up, brother. Oh my God.
versus
Uh,
the Bengals. But what I will say is the Reds historically have done a better job overall as far as fan engagement. You have Reds Fest, you have the different events and stuff they do around the city, and baseball can be at times easier to engage from a fan standpoint. But what I like is what you've mentioned. The Bengals have totally, and with Elizabeth Katie's daughter being more involved, coming back to the organization now, you see a total 180, maybe even 360 as far as fan involvement and engagement. The social media department is certainly different. You see a lot of videos throughout the week getting posted and keeping fans engaged. This is exactly what you want to see and how you start that love affair again with the Bengals, because you can ask any of those former players, especially Boomer and the gang, from the '80s and Chris Collinsworth and them. When the Bengals are firing on all cylinders, you don't want to play in any other city.
No, we love it. We gonna treat you well. We root hard. We love our sports teams. My boy Jay Coop here. Excuse me, my dog's in the back barking, of course. But you got Jay Coop said y'all killed them dudes. Absolutely, we definitely did dominate.
Jay
Um,
Coop, you
yes,
know what it
sir.
is, man.
Now look, he had to come back and say something negative right after. If y'all had a dome, I would come every game just to hate. Look, man, Jay Coop, look. J. Cool, look, you might as well just come on, be a Bengals fan, my brother. Ain't nothing wrong with it. I know he's an avid Old State supporter, so I know he's a little sad right now, but it's all right. Y'all bounce back next year. Y'all young. Y'all be okay. But let's move on. Let's move on. Just like the team got to do, we got to move on to. We on to the LA Chargers. They come here, high-powered offense. Justin Herbert, Austin Eckler, Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, Guyton, uh, Jared Cook Jr. at tight end. So they're loaded. They have a good offensive line as well. Obviously, they're going to make this about Burrow versus Herbert. Um, what are some keys to victory if we're looking to extend this winning streak to three?
Number one, we're gonna have to get after Justin Herbert. Gonna have to make him uncomfortable. That big, tall, 6'7" frame of his. Not the most agile and mobile quarterback guy. You don't want him to be able to sit back there and pick you apart where he can use that big, strong right arm. So the kid is going to be getting pressure, something the Bengals have excelled at this year. When you can get pressure on people like the likes of Lamar Jackson, I would assume and hope that we can do the same on Justin Herbert, make him uncomfortable to the point where he doesn't have time to get it to Keenan Allen and Mike Williams and some of those top-notch receiving options that he really does, have. So that would be number one, getting pressure on Justin Herbert. But also the secondary doing their part, man. You're really gonna have to get up in these guys. You're gonna have to play sound coverage. If you're playing any zone, everybody being responsible for their area. You're gonna have to be on, pins and needles as far as what happens if the play breaks down, and somebody like Keenan Allen, who's very good at adjusting on the fly, coming back to the quarterback. What happens when the play breaks down? You got to be on point. These are some serious wide receiver options that they have with the Chargers. So I think defensively, that's where we're looking at. And offensively, keep doing what we've been doing. The Chargers have been struggling on defense. They gave up, what was it, 37 points to Pittsburgh last week. They got rolled again this week
28 to
in their
13, I
game.
believe.
Yeah, so keep the pressure on them. And they're going to have to figure something out. They're coming all the way across country to play a 1 o'clock game here. It'll be just above freezing if I saw the forecast. correctly. I think about 34, degrees come kickoff. Don't want to totally rely on that, but again, come out, do the same thing you did this week. Get Joe Mixon established early. Put your physicality up on the Chargers. Let them know that it's going to be a long day, and try to take their spirits early.
Yep, absolutely, and that's some of my keys to the game as well. Jodine, let us ride him. Let's kind of take the air out of the ball, and then force them to become one dimensional. Where maybe Hendrickson and Herbert can pin their ears back, and we can get some turnovers off of them. But Chris made a good point. We have to stop Austin Eckler. He can really create mismatches, and that what concerns me. Dumps off to him, and he get to going. Breaking tackles and things like that. We have to tackle well in space against a guy like Austin Eckler. Um, and on offense, like I said, Joe Dean, keep riding them, man. Take what they give us. Don't force anything. And I think, like I said, I think Zach got a rhythm going where if we could start fast once again, I'm not saying be every game like the Steelers where we just score almost every time. But if we can, you know, start off with a touchdown on our opening drive and sustain, get a few first downs and things like that, that will go a long way in beating the Chargers. Um, Key stop the run and make sure we tackle in space, and I think we'll give ourselves a good chance to win that game. Now,
Absolutely. And if you go back to even last year, I mean, every year is a different
yeah,
year,
absolutely.
but it came down to the last or final seconds when we had that offensive pass interference call called on us in week one with AJ. So they do have a lot of the same weapons. It is a different team, different year, but this is not a team that the Bengals are going to fear either. I don't think they'll fear any team at this point because they know they can play with the likes of Green Bay. This is another opportunity for the Bengals to put a stranglehold potentially on their arrival as one of the top AFC teams. Chance to go 8-4, which is really, really a sexy record. I like that a lot better than 7-5, and that will put the Bengals, like I said, in the likes of New England and the rest of the gang that really have similar records. But if we can get there, we're already at the win total that I predicted for the entire year. So
Yep.
I predicted 7-10, and they're obviously ahead of schedule. But the way this is lining up, the Bengals have a serious opportunity to get on a run and create a lot of momentum going down the stretch. So the Chargers, what would you say would be the biggest concern offensively? Just looking at their defense, I don't really have any. Not to be overly confident, but looking at the Chargers defense, I don't have any concerns with what I think Joe and the gang can do this week.
I do.
Derwin James, excuse me.
You got Bosa.
I was waiting for you to mention him. I didn't know if I was allowed.
I'm gonna make, bro. He's an all pro in this league. Why wouldn't I mention him? I don't care what
Uh,
school he went to. Hey, he
what
is an
school
all
did he
pro
go to?
defensive. He went to Ohio State University. I don't say the. He went to Ohio State. But so he's an all pro at that position. You gotta block him. You gotta be accountable for him. Derwin James, like you said, I am worried about him. But people shown that you can score on with him out there. So I'm really not, like you said, I'm not afraid of anything. As long as we block up front, control the game, run the ball, we'll be fine. My guy Dell was watching here. He says Mixon needs 20 plus carries. I agree. 20 plus carries. I believe we were like 5-1, 6-1, some crazy stat like that. So we have to run the football, give Jodine the ball early, let him run. Let's run that zone,
Now,
uh, stretch
we're
zone.
talking about establishing a rhythm down the stretch and continue, which I agree to feed Joe Mixon. Do you have any concerns with not necessarily having a clear number two guy? I mean, I guess you could say Samaje P. Ryan would be next in line. I did see a Chris Evans sighting on Sunday. Really didn't want to see him after Saturday. uh, because it reminded me of where he went to school at. But he's certainly an option as a receiving threat out of the backfield. But would you like to see more of P. Ryan and Chris Evans so we don't wear Joe Mixon down going down the stretch?
Uh, feed Joe Dean. I understand the concern about not having the number two, but the fact that Joe Dean was pretty much hurt since week 5 of last year and really got the rest. Zach Taylor came out and said basically he could have came back way earlier before the season, but we just kind of held him out and just said, let's be smart about this. Let's get strong. I think Joe Dean got a lot of legs in him. He looked great. He looked like he's getting better as the season goes on. I say you feed that beast. Nobody when the Titans have Derrick Henry, they don't talk about no number twos. It's Derrick Henry. We gonna go down here with Derrick Henry. Ain't nobody else subbing for him. So uh run Jodine. I think he got fresh legs right now. He's running like he got fresh legs right now. And I just think you gotta ride that wave, because we finally getting what we expect out of him. And you pay a running back, which is not popular, these days, 12 and a half. You gotta get your money's worth. And
Well, he's
we've been
up to
doing it
the
this year.
task, so
Yeah,
that's
he's
not an
definitely
issue.
Definitely, definitely. So yeah, run Jodine, man. Let him have it. Let him have it down the stretch. Of course, you spell with P Ryan here, Evans here, but for the most part, it needs to be Joe Mixon carrying the rock.
I
Uh,
like that tree, man. We got to talk about that.
hey, the tree clean. I have to. Of course, I have to give credit, to my lady. She got the tree, got the ornaments and everything, and got it all set up. So I appreciated that. I said it looked good, so. It looked good back there. Now, before we go to the our predictions, we ha- I always forget this for some reason, but we gotta get game balls out for this last victory. Now, you normally go first, so I'll take it. I have two on offense. I have one on defense. On offense, obviously, we could give it to Jodine for 2 weeks in a row. But I'm going to give it to T. Higgins for stepping up with them doubling Jamar Chase. He had one-on-one opportunities, and he cashed in on them. And people have to forget, T was struggling early on in the year, but he had injuries that he was coming off of as well. After the bye week, we've seen a different T. Higgins. Um, so I am excited, uh, like moving forward about T. Higgins for sure. Excited about this offense because he is a person that can take advantage of the one-on-one matchups, and you can throw it to him down the field. I always wonder like why all the deep balls going to Chase. Throw
Right.
that ball up to Higgins. He's 6'4", and he made I believe his last name was Pierre on Sunday. Made him look like a little boy. Just throw it, bud. Just throw it up. Sometimes one-on-one
Absolutely.
coverage. I'm gonna take my chance with T. Higgins, and I'm going to give a game ball to Zachary Taylor. Yes,
What?
yes. You sweep Pittsburgh. First time since '09. 3 in a row. And both of these games this year has been dominating fashions. We had good game plans on offense, uh, running the football. The first 15 was on point. I always get on him about that. We started fast. I had no complaints about the play calling. Maybe it's beginning of the third quarter because I wanted to really crush the Steelers. I wanted to drop 50 on them if possible. But everything was good from Zach Taylor, and he's getting in the groove as a play caller. So I wanted to give him a game ball, and I want to get a defensive game ball. I want to give it to Mike Hilton. Mike Hilton deserved that game ball. Pick six against his former team, sweep his former team, and he happy about that because they didn't show him no love in free agency. Basically, let him walk out the door without offering him anything. Thank you, Pittsburgh. We
uh,
appreciate you here in Cincinnati. Who's your game balls for this past week?
Game balls, you know me, I like to be counterintuitive. I'm going to give a game ball to the offensive line for coming out of the gate, setting
Hmm.
the tone, allowing Joe Mixon to get 160 plus yards. In fact, I believe Joe Mixon has now set the record for most rushing yards in a game against Pittsburgh Steelers by a Bengal. So hats off to the offensive line who allowed him to do so. this game and establishing an identity. And actually, second week in a row that they've done that. So the offensive line is gaining some traction. They're getting some continuity. As you said, Coach Pollock is pushing the right buttons as far as combinations out there and coaching them up during the week. So give some love to the big guys who don't often get the love. On the defensive side of the ball, I could copy off of you and go with Mike Hilton, which was my initial thought. I'm going to be counterintuitive also, and I'm going to give it up to Eli Apple for the second week in a row, stepping up in that number two corner spot. He's being asked to do more than they initially brought him here to do. He's had some troubles, throughout the year, but he seems to be settling in and getting some confidence about him. And got a couple interceptions now. I know that always makes the DB feel good. It's like Super Mario eating the mushroom on the game.
Hmm.
You step up a little bit after that, start feeling yourself. So I'm going to give it to Eli Apple from the because I need some confidence right now for the also.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And like I said, I'm happy for Eli Apple in numerous of ways. Like I said, he went through a lot, mental health, different things like that with the Giants, bounced around, and like I said, it's a first round pick, being at basically top of your class coming out. It's hard to reinvent yourself. It's hard to kind of recenter yourself and say, hey, I am this player. I'm maybe not be a top. I'm a top 10 pick, but maybe I'm a role player now. I have to set my role. And it so happened that his role ended up being increased. He's gotten better as the weeks going on. He's not so much of someone where you can just pick on. So that's all we need from a second corner. You just don't have to be able to just be able to pick on him, make your
Right.
plays. Um, and like I said, even though he struggled over the years, he's still a top 10 talent. He still got the 40 time. He still got the so all that kind of stuff that you need to be a top 10 corner. He still has that.
Six
So
two, yeah.
right, size, speed, intangibles. So he still has that. So, big ups to him, man, Eli Apple, for continuing to stay the course. He's been a punchline for Bengals fans. But he's been able to continue to play well and up in this game. Uh, Prediction: Chargers, Bengals. Do we win three in a row?
Yes, the Bengals win three in a row. Um, I'm gonna say with the Chargers looking to not let their season fall completely off the rail.
Mm,
They put up a good fight, and the Bengals win 33-21.
33-21. I think we win this game. I think it'll be a good game. I got us winning 31-27. I think Chargers will put up their points. I just think they're a good offense. Um, but it is something to be said for them coming from the West Coast to the East. It's gonna be cold. It's gonna be 10 o'clock their time when
Well,
they
they
play.
certainly didn't handle going to Baltimore playing at 1 o'clock very well. They got shellacked in that game, so I'm hoping that trend continues.
They got beat up bad. So, we will see. But right now it's all well in Bengal land. We're 7-4. We got everything that we want in front of us. We're 3-1 in the division. We pretty much control our own destiny, even though we're you know, got that game behind. But hey, man, we're in a good position. If you have told me that we will be 7-4 right now, with a chance to win the division, I would take it. I would take it because you had them at 7-10. I have them at 8-9 before the season start. It looks like they're on the pace to eclipse both of those, as long as they keep playing the way they're playing. And when you have a quarterback like Joe Burrow, that oozes confidence in everybody else, and I'm looking at the AFC, and it's just like I don't see any team that really scares me. I mean, Patriots play well. Uh, they have the number one defense, Bill B. That'll be Joey B. First time seeing him, so that will maybe concern me. Outside of that, nothing really scares me.
Well, anytime you're going against the mad scientist, you have to be concerned. Best in-game adjuster that I've probably seen of my lifetime. I mean, there's been a few others, but constantly when you play a Bill Belichick team. Once you do find something that works, you better find something else really quickly because they adjust really well. They're doing a good job of handling Mac Jones as a rookie, but certainly I think talent wise and rhythm wise that the team is in, the Bengals can compete with anybody in the AFC. There's no reason to think, that they can't. Record wise, they're pretty much similar to, everybody else right now. So they just have to do their job and keep winning, keep pace with these teams. Things will happen in the NFL as it does in college football. Certain teams will take L's that you didn't expect. That's kind of been the theme this year across the NFL also. So the Bengals weren't alone in that little two-game slide that they had, but you had to learn from it. You had to be able to stop the bleeding at a certain point, which the Bengals have done and gotten back on track. So that'll be key the rest of the season.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely, and we'll see this week. We'll definitely see. But I'm just so happy, man, to be where we are after these struggles these last 2 years. Wondering if we have the right coaching staff in place. Wondering if, because last year was really like a whirlwind. This time last year, Joe Burrow just had a knee injury. We
Ugh.
questioning Zach Taylor. Uh, you know, a little bit before that, you had the Dunlap situation. It was a mess around this point in time last year, and to look, 12 months later, you're 7-4 in the thick of things, and one of arguably, pundits saying, one of the best teams in the AFC. That's a heck of a turnaround in 12 months. So, you know, take it one week at a time, Bengals fans. We're not gonna put the cart before the horse. We're just gonna stay focused one week at a time, like the players. And it's okay. It's okay to still don't let these Pittsburgh fans tell you, "Oh, y'all finally doing it." Y'all finally. No, we got a right to celebrate. It's a big division game. Division games are always big, and when you win them, you get to glow to your division, your division rivals, and you get to glow to them. That's that.
Don't
You
let
allowed to
black
do
and
that.
yellow tell you anything anyway, because that dynasty is over with, and you can't take away their 6 Super Bowls. Hats off to them and the way the Rooney family has ran that organization for the majority of time. But again, hey, they got their 2 Super Bowls in the Roethlisberger era. Other than that, you got to go back to the Steel Curtain in the '70s when they got their four. There was some spare tires being put up by the Steelers, in between that time. Bill Cowher had some good teams in the '90s, but what I'm basically saying is we're not listening to Pittsburgh anymore. It's a new day in Cincinnati. You enjoy your victories. You enjoy three state straight against Pittsburgh. Thrice is nice. It's the title of this episode, so enjoy it.
Yes, yes. Enjoy it. Enjoy each and every win, no matter who it's against. Enjoy it. It's just extra. It's just an extra little sauce on it when it's the Steelers. It just is what it is. But that's it. Another episode of Life in the Jungle, episode 14. We'll be out on Spotify in the morning. We out.